Hello, my name is Kobe Warner. This is the Koblizzy podcast, and I'm so happy to be back for another episode. This week, I'm going to be discussing tons of things. Beyonce, of course, is going to be mentioned. She's literally this should not be called a pop culture podcast. This should be called a Beyonce podcast. But she just can't stop breaking records, so I just can't stop talking about her. But I'm also going to be telling a story about when I went to the chiropractor the other day. It was absolutely ridiculous, and I just have to tell somebody. So I'm doing a good old fashioned YouTube story time, but on my podcast. And so, yeah, that's really what I'm going to be discussing. I'm going to start with Beyonce. I talked about Texas Hold'em in 16 Carriages in episode 56 of Koblizzy 2 weeks ago. And since then, a lot has continued to happen with the success of that song. It's now Beyonce's number one on the Spotify global chart for the first time in her entire career, 27 years into it. She's averaging 6 million, not averaging, she got 6 million plays globally yesterday on Texas Hold'em, which is just crazy. And it's just growing and growing and growing. And she's the first black woman to have a number one single on the hot country chart. It's the way I'm misrepeating every single thing so far, every accolade. And the song Texas Hold'em debuted at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 last week, and number 38 for 16 Carriages. 16 Carriages was 38, and 38 Summers. And Texas Hold'em is predicted to rise to number 1 on the Hot 100 this week, and by the time this episode comes out, the chart will be out, and she will have been number 1. But it's just crazy because I'm like, I've never seen the public take to a Beyonce song in the streaming era this quickly, you know. And when Beyonce was having huge mainstream success last time, I was very, very little or not alive. But for most of it, I was just really little. Like, I Am Sasha Fierce, 2008, 2009 maybe. And like that era of time, I was like 7, 6 or 7, 5 even maybe. And so a lot of her mainstream success I didn't witness in real time. When I was a huge fan of Beyonce, it was when she wasn't really catering to the streaming era. So from Beyonce, the self-titled album was the first release I really witnessed. Even 4, I was kind of remember vaguely in real time. I love 4. It's my favorite album, I think. I remember Lemonade, and she literally didn't put Lemonade on Spotify. It was a Tidal exclusive where you had to buy it. And then Everything Is Love with Jay-Z, which was also a Tidal exclusive at first. And what else? Black is King. The Gift is the album. Black is King is the movie. Oh my God, the most underrated project she's ever done. Black is King on Disney Plus is such a beautiful live album, and I guarantee you probably haven't seen it. And it's crazy because that album just got no hype, and neither did its video project, despite being so ridiculously stunning. Sorry, I'm picking at my cuticle. But I'm just like, it is so beautiful, and it got not enough attention. And the music on The Gift is so, impactful, but sonically it makes you dance. There's some really beautiful songs. There's some sad songs. There's really it's something for everybody. It's a well-versed, Afrobeats influenced kind of album with a lot of collaborations. And Beyonce, that's one thing about her. Everybody always faults her for having a lot of songwriting credits. But I think the reason every single Beyonce project is so successful is because she understands the art of collaboration on a level that some artists don't. And some artists don't need to collaborate. Some artists maintain their brand fine without collaboration. But Beyonce's brand is shifting. As much as they want to pinhole Beyonce into shoehorn, I don't know. As much as they want to pigeonhole is what I'm looking for. As much as they want to pigeonhole Beyonce into R&B and say she's R&B this and R&B that, Beyonce is a genre-list artist, and she always has been. She started in an R&B group, and people like to never move on from where people begin. And so she started in an R&B group. That's true. But then her first album, Dangerously in Love, R&B. Yeah. B-Day, not really R&B. Her second album, I'm sure that's what they called it, but it's definitely a pop album. She sings in Spanish a lot on this album. That album was really influenced by Latin American music. And I think that's not... That noise was crazy. I don't know if that registered, but when I accidentally tapped this, I don't know if that's recognized, really. B-Day's not an R&B album. It's not an R&B album. It's just not. It's like a pop album for sure. But like I said, the influences are in Latin America. She sings in Spanish. Shakira's on the album. A man, I forget his name, but Amor Gitano is a song on the album I've mentioned on the podcast before. I love it. I don't remember his name, but the guy she sings a duet with him. There's a couple of Spanish singers on the album. She sings some of the hits in Spanish. Irreplaceable, she did in Spanish. Listen, she did in Spanish. Oh yay! And so I just feel like people they have always tried to pigeonhole her R&B, and from her second solo project, she already broke out of it. Her third album, I Am Sasha Fierce, baby, that's pop. That is pop. That's Single Ladies. That's Scared of Lonely. That's Halo. That's pop. Pop. Didn't Ryan Tedder write Halo? That's pop. Do you know what I mean? Not R&B, pop. That's 2009. Why are you calling her an R&B artist? She's been making pop music and other kinds of genre music and singing in Spanish and doing this and doing that and singing gospel music since 1997. And they've been pigeonholing her into R&B ever since then. That's ridiculous. So let's move on. B-Day, or what was I saying? B-Day Spanish. Oh, I'm Sasha Fierce is pop. And then next is Four. That's an R&B album for sure. But it's not just an R&B album. It's not a contemporary R&B album. That was an R&B album that was inspired by the real R&B, the original R&B of the 70s, 80s, maybe 90s era. But I feel like it's really the 80s. There's a lot of synths and stuff in Four. And it's one of my favorite Beyonce projects. It's emotional. It's jubilant. It's happy. I just feel like, why is this mic cutting out every time I touch it? Like, I hope you guys can't hear that. That's crazy. Anyway, so Four is so beautiful. And if you can't hear it every time I mention that the mic is cracking, you're like, why do you keep saying that? I can't hear anything. So I'm not going to mention it and just hope, cross my fingers. Four is an R&B album, undeniably so. But it's one of her few R&B. Most of her albums are not R&B, and that's what bothers me, because she's a black woman, because she is a singer she has a song voice, she runs, she riffs. R&B, 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 R&B. It drives me nuts. So let's move on from Four, which is an R&B album, yes, and it is my favorite. But it's R&B. I'll give it to you. But after Four, Beyonce self-titled album, the iTunes surprise drop on a Friday when everybody else put music out on Tuesday, that sold like 800,000 copies in the last couple of days of the year, 600,000 copies in the last couple of days of the year, a ridiculous number. Beyonce is her album where, in my opinion, she started to get really experimental. Four was experimental. To do an 80s, 70s, 80s inspired R&B record in 2011 when I am titanium, and I'm not saying those songs aren't catchy or fun or good, but I'm just saying Beyonce was really going against the grain in 2011 with an album like Four. So yes, it was experimental, but the music is something at least familiar to my ears. I'm familiar with the R&B of the 20th century. You know what I mean? And so to me, I'm just like, okay, this is familiar in vibe. And so it wasn't so shocking to me. That's why I love the album so much. And that's also the album where my dad was like, you have to listen to this girl named Beyonce, and I was 2011, I was 8 or 9. So I was little and Beyonce was new to me. And of course, ever since then, I've been going back and digging into her career for the 13, 14 year, 15 almost probably years that she was working and performing before I was aware. Well, 1997, 2011, 14 years. So almost 15 years that she was performing before I was acutely aware of her career. I had to dig back into it. And baby, now I know it all. But back then, Four was the first for me. So I think maybe that's why it's also my favorite. But back to Beyonce, that's when I think she really, really got experimental. One, the iTunes surprise drop, the no release, the fact that it was a full visual album. There was a music video for every single song, but then she wasn't selling the CDs immediately. It's like she wasn't trying to make money. It was crazy. But of course, it's available on iTunes. And it broke the system. Beyonce was, as an album, the impact that it had on the industry, culture shifting. But sonically, in terms of the music, it is so diverse and experimental and pop and R&B and alternative and spooky and broken and heartfelt and loving and drunk in love. It is a fantastic record. Beyonce is the album. Like 4, my dad was like, "Oh, you have to listen to this song." It was on the radio. It was Love on Top. He was like, "Ooh, you got to get into this Love on Top by me." Ooh, you know that Wendy Williams video? I'm gonna mention her too. I'm so sad about her diagnoses. But that Wendy Williams video where she's dancing, my dad was like, "You got to get into this Love on Top." And so 4, I got into like when it was on the radio. But Beyonce, I sat down on the family computer and watched the music videos, and I remember it vividly in 2014 or 13, December 13, I think. And then the deluxe version came out in 2014, I believe. These are just off the dome, and I do have memory loss. I do have memory loss. Don't know where that came from. Don't know where that came from. Never quite put my finger on that one. Um, anyway, so Beyonce as an album is just everything. I think that's when Lemonade is a different genre every track, but I think people neglect the fact that the self-titled album set that precedent for Beyonce. Beyonce started diversifying her projects, and like B-Day, Dangerously in Love is an R&B album. All of the Destiny's Child's work is R&B or gospel music. You know, they had some pop hits, some breakout hits, but it's really all rooted in R&B. Dangerously in Love is R&B. B-Day was so Beyonce recorded B-Day in 2 weeks after recording Dreamgirls and not being able to make her own original music for half a year or more because she was focused on playing Dina in the Dreamgirls movie. So then right after that, she's going to go on vacation. She changes her mind. She goes into the studio and she records like, I think 70 songs or something like that, 70 plus, 80 songs. They said a huge number of songs in 2 weeks. And then she had B-Day and its deluxe versions. And she just did this so fast. And so B-Day is super cohesive in sound, but also in emotion, in delivery, because it was kind of the same time period. It's so cohesive. I Am Sasha Fierce, pop. It's cohesive. 4, it's R&B. It's cohesive. Beyonce, it's diverse. It's experimental. It makes you think. It's layered. You don't catch everything on first listen. You don't catch everything on first watch. It keeps you coming back. I think this is when Beyonce started moving on from just commercial success into legendness. And 4, she was like, okay, I'm going to go against the grain. I'm going to start denying commercial success. If you watch Life is But a Dream, that's my favorite of her documentaries. That's when she fired her dad. That's when she started managing herself. That's when she started taking risk. That's why she was going against the grain and she wasn't competing anymore. I Am Sasha Fierce was her biggest commercial success to date. I have a feeling this country record's going to do some numbers. But I Am Sasha Fierce to date is her biggest commercial success. And after that, she fired her dad and she's like, what am I going to do now? That was great, but what now? If you watch, again, Life is But a Dream, I highly recommend. My favorite of her documentaries. Documents Blue being born, and documents her announcing the pregnancy. It documents all of that. It's a beautiful movie. Beautiful, beautiful movie. And if you buy it on iTunes, it comes with the Live in Atlantic City concert. I'm a Beyonce stan, like, if you can't tell. Some of the, not everything I say is right, maybe, but I have a lot of facts on top of this head. Or, I guess, in it, rather. Anyway, so she started pushing the boundary with 4. Beyonce, she was like, baby, I'm doing something different. I think when she started doing this and it put it out on Friday instead of Tuesday, which is when people used to release music, an iTunes exclusive, which was unheard of at the time. I think Drake maybe did it shortly after that, or maybe he did around the same time. I don't know for sure. Don't come for me, Drake fans. But Drake also did an iTunes exclusive at one point, and so did Frank Ocean in 2015. But Beyonce's iTunes exclusive in 2014, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was the first. And I just heard this crazy story about how somebody physically delivered the physical copies of the music. I hit the mic again. The physical copies of the music to the iTunes headquarters to upload it on the computer. That's why the album has no cover, really. It just says Beyonce on it. Because there was none of that. It was a super secret, top secret. That's why it didn't leak that it was an iTunes exclusive. It was just a culture shifting moment. So then after Beyonce, we have to wait a couple of years. 2 years? 2016. Then Beyonce puts out Lemonade. 3 years, I guess, from when the original edition of Beyonce self-titled came out. Anyway, Lemonade expands upon this Beyonce idea of doing diverse genre stuff. Lemonade's like, Beyonce's like, not only am I going to encapsulate all these different emotions that you experience when you're grieving being cheated on by a lover who you have a kid with, but I'm going to use a different genre to tell the story of each emotion. It's like She chewed that. And so again, it's not just making a diverse album with different sounds and cohesive but diverse and divisive even visuals, like self-titled Beyonce album. Lemonade, she's like, I'm gonna tell a story. I'm gonna do it in different genres with different track, country and rock and pop and R&B and soul and gospel and this and that and everything. Um, she's just so, she's one of one. She's number one. She's the only one. Bad bitch. She's the bar. Alien superstar. Whip, whip. I'm too classic for this world. I just can't get over her sometimes. Anyway, so after Lemonade, we get Everything Is Love, which is her. She puts out Lemonade, and then Jay-Z puts out 444, which is kind of like the response to her telling the initial story of the divorce. And then they put out Everything Is Love, which is a joint record under the name The Carters, which is like my top 3 Beyonce album of all time. Love Everything Is Love. And then I saw On the Run 2, which toured that album. It's the first concert I ever saw Beyonce in, as well as Jay-Z. And I love Everything Is Love. So then after that, Black is King came out. Oh, Everything Is Love is like a rap record, right? So she does, we were talking about genres. So sorry, Beyonce's all over the place in terms of genre. And then she puts out Lemonade, which is all over the place in terms of genre. And genreless. That's the word I want to use. Genreless. Beyonce is genreless. Beyonce Lemonade set those precedents. Then she puts out Everything Is Love, that's a rap record, hip hop. She puts out Black is King, that's Afro beats. Baby, Renaissance, house, genre list. She's done everything. Now she's doing a country record. After that, in my opinion, it's unconfirmed, but I think she's going to do a rock record. I think that's going to be Act 3. And I don't know where she's going to go after that. To the moon. I don't know, to the stars. We can take it to the moon, take it to the stars. I don't know where Beyonce's going after the country and then the rock. But Betty Black, baby, she's going to light it up. And then they're going to call her an R&B artist. Please use your brain. It's like, that's why you just know, that's how you know people don't want to see past that she's a woman, or see past that she's a black woman, or see past that she's this or that she's that, or that she's made this commentary, or that she's supported this political candidate. They don't want to see past all of those things to get to the talent, and they want to lift up other people that don't need to be in the conversation. We don't need to compare certain artists, or any artist for that matter, but you don't need to compare Beyonce, for example, to Taylor Swift, because they do different things. You don't need to compare Beyonce to Drake or Michael Jackson even. Unless you're just saying that Michael Jackson and Beyonce are the most well-rounded artists of their time, respectively. That's the word I was going to say. And then if that's the case, I agree. But anything other than that, no, because they don't sound the same. They don't do the same thing. And it's like, I know, she was inspired by Michael and she was inspired by Tina. And of course, those people are of different generations. Both of those people have passed. But Beyonce's just in a different league. She's 27 years into her career. She cannot be compared to anybody of this generation. The people that she can be compared to are really old or no longer living. Like the people that you can compare somebody like Beyonce to. She is an old Hollywood kind of star in 2024. And there are not very many of those. I understand Taylor Swift is so famous, and I love her music, and I love her country music, and I love her pop music, and I love her alternative music, but that doesn't mean that to me they are on the same playing field. It's not that. This is me separating them. This is what I'm saying. I'm not comparing them, and the reason I'm not comparing them is because I think there's a disparity, and I think it's apples and oranges. And so I love that Taylor went to the Renaissance premiere and Beyonce to the Eras Tour movie for them to show people, like, we support each other, like, we're girls. But I'm telling you, they aren't peers. And it's not a read. It's just that Beyonce's been around for almost 30 years. And Beyonce's only 9.5, 10 years older than Taylor Swift, sure. But they're of different generations. They debuted 10 years. They're 9 years apart, and they debuted 9 years apart, I think, and this is, rough math. But that is a long time. Beyonce debuted before the turn of the century. Beyonce debuted before 9/11. Like, there are just, it's like you can't, I was born in 2002. I didn't witness the first 5 Beyonce's first 5 years of career did not happen within my life. Do you know what I mean? Like, I remember hearing Taylor Swift's, Teardrops on My Guitar on the radio when I was 4, 5. Like, that was her come up. It's just different. I came up with Taylor Swift. I grew up with her. I didn't grow up with Beyonce. Do you see what I'm saying? That's why they're not peers. Because it's not the same thing. There's a lot that happened in the 10 years that separates their careers. A lot of aging of the world. And I don't mean to go on a tangent. Anyway, Beyonce's just breaking records left and right. She's going to go number 1 on the Hot 100. She's already number 1 on the Spotify Global. She's number 1 on iTunes still at the time of filming. I just don't know what Beyonce can't do, and I'm happy she's coming for country. Dolly posted a message saying, congratulations on your hot country single, Beyonce, your hot number 1 country single. I'm so excited to hear the album. There's rumors that Beyonce's collaborating with Mickey Guyton, who's a black female country singer, and that Dolly might have written on the record or might have something to do with it. That's a rumor. That'd be amazing, but I just read that online, so there's no merit to that. Let me not bite my cuticle on the camera. I'm forgetting where I am. Have some decorum. So, I didn't really say a song of the week. I already talked about Texas Hold'em 2 weeks ago. So let me go in my Apple Music and see what I'm listening to. I've been loving Casey Musgraves again, but I think I said that last week. I have been loving Texas Hold'em, genuinely listening to it all the time. There's a country singer named Lainey Wilson. She's a white girl. There's a lot of Mickey Guyton's a black woman. Yola is another country singer I love who is a black woman. She's incredible. I've been listening to her since high school, ever since I learned about her through Music Midtown, which is a music festival in Atlanta. When I went senior year, that's when I went to Music Midtown last, which is crazy. It was almost 5 years ago now, 4.5 years ago. But anyway, Lainey Wilson is a white girl, a country's cool again. She won at the Grammys. She sings Watermelon Moonshine. Hey, cut the burn with a little lime. Parking back in them kudzu vines. I was his and every bit of that boy was mine. Too young to know what love was. But we were learning on a sweet bus. Never nothing like a first time. And mine's always gonna taste like watermelon moonshine. That's Lainey Wilson. Anyway, she has a song called Country's Cool Again that I just heard the other day, and I don't really know it for real, so I can't really sing it. But this one is another one that I love besides Watermelon Moonshine. And I'm like, hey y'all, it's a kind of yeehaw. Beyonce said we're getting in the country era, so now I'm allowed to be vocal about how much I actually like country music. Not men really, but the women. I love a country woman, Dolly Parton. I love Linda Ronstadt. Old country music I think might be better. The Carpenters are kind of country, not really, I guess, but I love the Carpenters. Lainey Wilson's a new age girl who's great. Carrie Underwood has a great voice, even though I think she might, anyway. So the chorus of Country's Cool Again. Everybody wanna be a cowboy, not the melody, by the way. Drive a John boat, whip a John Deere. Everybody want a backwards front porch with a tub full of ice beer. I can't say the words. With a tub full of ice down beer. Must be something in the water flowing out of the hollow blue collar. Must have caught a new wind. Doggone it, dad coming. Didn't see that coming. Country's cool again. So honestly, I did not make a good case for the song at all just now because I sound terrible. But if you like country music, it's a fun song. Oh my God, maybe I should make an episode about the country songs that I like, because I am the first person to tell you. I say I like all music. I don't mean that I can listen to any song in any genre. But what I mean is that every genre has good music. Classical music, Spanish music, Italian music, pop music, K-pop, R&B, country, screamo, rock, grunge, EDM, house. Every genre has some bangers. I'm not saying I like every song in every genre. I'm not saying I listen to every song in every genre. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying. It sounds like ASMR. Everybody just clicked off. I don't know how those people make all those mouth noises. I do not know how they do that. It's not as easy as it looks. I've never tried before. I don't know. I don't know how they do that. That is killing me. I don't even remember what I was talking about. Oh, I might make an episode about country music. Yeehaw! Let me know if you want it. I'll put you on to the country music that I like. Legacy. I mean, like music I've liked from childhood and like recent stuff too, and stuff that my voice teacher in college showed me because he put me on to some real good like singers, like country music people who sang like beautiful voices. Linda Ronstadt being one of them. Um. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I'm talking about the chiropractor. So yeah, I've been to this chiropractor before. This is a story time. This is a Tana Mojo story time. Trisha Paytas story time. I'm about to get on the floor, start crying. Kidding. I've been to this chiropractor before, but they'd never said anything crazy to me, like outlandish to me. It's white people, and I hate to say it's not even white people exclusively. People in the South generally are hit or miss. Now, this is on the back of me talking about how much I like country music, and I do. And I grew up in Georgia. I've lived in Georgia since I was 7. I'm Southern born and bred, I'm Southern bred though, whether I like it or not. And that's where my formative years were spent. And I like it. I like the South, but I also recognize the flaws of the South, the historically and currently. We don't even have to talk about the historical flaws, which there are many. We can talk about the issues right now until I take my last dying breath, and I never even get to all the old shit that we never got to. I will say it all is building on the back of each other, and it's also doesn't help that people deny history. That doesn't help the present. And when it comes to racial issues or whatever it may be. Anyway, so country people are hit or miss generally. Black people, white people, Hispanic, anybody in the South is hit or miss. You never know. It's a free for all. You can never tell based on somebody's skin or creed or color or economic class what they'll believe. And especially somebody like me, I'm gay and I'm Black, I'm mixed, and I just say I'm Black though. Usually, I'm like when I say I'm mixed, I feel like I know how, like I just know the connotation associated with like mixed and light skinned people, and I just don't want to associate myself with like, oh, I'm mixed. Some people love to talk about how they're that, and so I usually just say I'm Black, but I don't want to then put myself in the front of the conversation. I made an episode about this too. But anyway, I am a Black person. That's what I identify as, but I am also a mixed person. And the reason I'm saying that is because it created like a kind of confusion. Mixed people always try to create some sort of struggle. Like, I didn't know who to be friends with. The Black people was this and the white people was this. But for me, it was like, I'm of color. I am gay. Come to find out, I really don't feel like a boy. Some gay boys get along with boys. I never really got along with boys, and I was never really good with boys or navigating them or being friends with them. And I never really had boyfriends that were nice to me or kind to me until I got older. And so it was just in the South, it was damning to be feminine, to be of color, to be queer and just expressive in your effeminate nature naturally and not even really think about it, so you don't realize you're setting yourself up to get teased. It's all complicated. And so I say all of this to say my caveat is rooted in Southern people. While the South is great, Southern people are hit or miss. And so I've gone to this chiropractor, back to it, many, many times. Well, not many, maybe like a dozen times. I don't know if that's like a lot. But I've been there over the past couple of years, like 2-3 years, since we moved up to the Atlanta area. I grew up in South Georgia. And these people, I mean, they're white, country, Southern people, hit or miss. And I give people a chance. I don't know. I give people a shot. I feel like sometimes I have my dukes raised, and whenever I have my dukes raised, I find that I'm gonna find something to have an issue with. As I get older, I realize that if people approach me with love and compassion, despite maybe if the words they're saying are wrong or the rhetoric they're saying is wrong, I can try to look through it or see through it because if they mean well. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't expect old whoever to, be great using they, them pronouns or having great politically correct rhetoric all the time, and you just can't, it's an unrealistic standard. I'd love it. That'd be great. But, you can't expect everybody to be perfect, quote unquote, so to speak. And so I say that to say I give people a shot most of the time. And so I gave these people a shot. I sure did. And so I'm at the chiropractor, and I'm talking about the people that own the place. It's like a husband and a wife. They run this joint. And This is crazy. So I go to the chiropractor. They open. It's like a Saturday morning, and I'm one of the first people there. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, right at opening, and I get there, and I was wearing a Taylor Swift. I wear this Taylor Swift red hoodie that I've had for a couple of years. I wear that hoodie all the time, and I was wearing that hoodie that morning. It was chilly, and the lady's like, "Oh, you like Taylor Swift? Are you a Swiftie?" That's what she said. She said, "Are you a Swiftie?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm a Swiftie. I like Taylor Swift a lot." Da 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 da. And then that was right after the shooting that happened in Kansas City, right after the Super Bowl win, right after my dad's texting me. He said, "You good?" "Yes, I'm good. Taping my podcast." Right after the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl, there was a celebration, and at the celebration, two kids shot. There was fatality. There was shooting, and you know it's America, and I know shootings are people kind of get deaf to that news now, but it is so despicable. And so anyway, Taylor Swift donated money. On a GoFundMe, you could see that she donated, and Travis Kelce, they both donated $100,000 respectively, and that's great. But I don't need to read it in the news. And so the lady brought that up, and she was like, "Oh yeah, did you see that Taylor Swift donated? It's so terrible what happened in Kansas City," which it is. I don't mean to make a mockery of that. I'm making mockery of her. She said, "It's so terrible what happened in Kansas City. Did you see that Taylor Swift donated money?" And I was like, "Yeah, and Travis Kelce donated money." The thing about me is I read the news. Like, she probably watches, come to find out, so to speak. I mean, you're not, ugh, this shit pisses me off. She probably watches Fox News and gets all her shit off AI generated Facebook or whatever. I get on Apple News and I read news outlets and I read different articles and I learn. I try to use my brain. I try not to be a dummy. Speaking, the primary election is right now for the upcoming presidential election. It feels so draining. And I know that's how they want it to feel. Like they want you to feel like you shouldn't vote so you don't and then they win. But honestly, I'm talking about the conservatives. They want the Democrats to feel discouraged. That's why they make it harder to vote and they make less polling places in, black dominated areas. And they, especially around Atlanta, they just make it so much harder for people to vote if you aren't conservative in the South. I don't know why they do that. It really should be illegal. It's just modern Jim Crow, but that's another story. And so anyway, I had to vote in the primaries yesterday, and it's literally dementia and dementia war crime and dementia fraudulent, $350 million cases and 90 gazillion indictments. It's like ridiculous. And then of course Marianne Williamson's on the ballot, but I like her, but I just don't, I say like, and I don't like politicians anymore. I think I used to have, in 2020, when that was the first election I could vote in, I turned 18 in June 2020, and November was the Trump versus Biden first round presidential election. That was the first time I could vote. I was really involved. I was participating in a documentary at the time that was kind of, including the election as a topic of conversation. And so I was doing a lot of keeping up with it just because of the times. It was the first time I could vote. I was really into it. I was actively, being political because I felt like I can make real change. And I'm not saying vote, people. Please vote. I'm not saying don't vote. Please vote. Please vote. Please vote. It is our only power in this, so to speak, quote unquote, democracy. It's our only power. Please vote. But I just felt more inspired by the process before everything else that's transpired has transpired. And I've also learned a lot about the past 40 years of politics in the past couple of years. And I don't know, it just feels like we're on a downward spiral. And I don't know what I mean by feels like. We are literally on a downward spiral. That's another story. So anyway, vote in the primary. I went yesterday, but I don't know. I feel so drained by that. But anyway, my point in saying this is the reason I got distracted. I read the news. And so I know what happened with this shooting because I read it. I knew it was two kids. I knew XYZ. I knew how much Taylor donated. I just knew that because I read a couple of articles on the news app, right? And so she's trying to tell me some grown man was the shooter. And I was like, no, it was definitely two kids. Like I read it and I looked it up. It was the Washington Post. It's, the New York Times. It's real news outlets. Like, I just don't think you're right. I think they're wrong. I think you're wrong. Not, you know what I mean? I think she's wrong and not the news people. Anyway, so come to find out, the thing that she was talking about is some black dude was sitting on the side of the street, accused. I don't know why he was even sitting there, but cuffed. The Fox News started circulating a picture about how he was the shooter. It was a black dude in a red tracksuit, and the whole time it was some kids. It was just ridiculous. I would sue the socks off those people if I was that man. But anyway, that's what she was talking about. I didn't even know that at the time. But then she goes on to just talk about the Super Bowl, and I was like, of course, we were talking about the horrible is what I meant to say. A horrible incident that occurred after the Super Bowl at the parade. But then she starts talking about the actual Super Bowl and da 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 da. And she was like, so a few minutes later, after asking me about my hoodie, she was like, so did you go see Taylor Swift in concert? And I was like, oh yeah, I saw her in Nashville. And I was like, oh wait, no, that's not true. I saw Taylor Swift in Atlanta. I saw Beyonce in Nashville. That's exactly what I said, essentially. I misspoke. I said, oh yeah, I saw Taylor in Nashville. And that was not true. I saw Taylor in Atlanta, Georgia. I saw Beyonce knows Giselle Carter. That's not her name. I saw Beyonce Giselle Knowles Carter. I saw Beyonce Giselle Knowles Carter. Can't speak. Can't speak. I'm like with a millennial. Oh, I can't talk. I can't speak today. Oh, no words. I don't have English. Like, I hate when people do that. That shit is annoying, but I really do be fucking my words up. I fucking my words up. Anyway, Beyonce Giselle Knowles Carter. I saw her in Nashville, and I accidentally said I saw Taylor Swift in Nashville. I corrected my speaking. I said, the reason I even said I saw Beyonce was just to give context of why I said Nashville accidentally to begin with. And she was like, you're probably not going to believe this, but I don't really like Beyonce. And you know what I said? I said, I believe it. Because I do believe it. I'm looking at this lady. She's already talking about, this shooting in a way that was kind of giving me conservative. Talking about the people are so crazy. She wasn't talking about how it's an issue that we have guns everywhere. She's not, the people are so crazy. The people are so crazy. No, baby. Crazy people are everywhere. They're not going anywhere. We need to lock the guns up. The people, and if people are so crazy, why don't you care about mental health education, conservatives? Just another point. If people are so crazy, if it's people and not guns, then why aren't you investing in people, in healthcare, in mental health? So you don't care about mental health either. You don't care. You just want everybody to get shot up at a concert, at a grocery store, at a school, at a church, at a mosque, at a synagogue. Like, be for real. But that's another story. So she just giving me conservative vibes. She said, believe it or not, I don't like Beyonce. I said, I believe it because I do believe it. It's just an old white lady sitting in front of me. I believe her. I believed her. And she was like, I just feel like she's like not that good of a singer. I feel like, for example, like Alicia Keys is a better singer. And I love Alicia Keys as much as the next mixed person. As much as, not to bring up being mixed, I'm just saying that because Alicia Keys is mixed. As much as the next, person who listened to 2000s R&B. Fallen, No One. I mean, even to her pop hits, Girl on Fire. She has a song with Maxwell called The Fire We Make. Like, I really like Alicia Keys' music. I actually know quite a lot of it. Unbreakable. She has a lot of songs that I like. Songs in the key of A minor. I have that CD. Like, I like Alicia Keys. She ain't out singing Beyonce. Especially when the couple of days before that, she was on the Super Bowl with her voice cracking. And I'm not saying singers' voice don't crack. I'm a singer. I've been singing for 15 years. I know our voice crack. It cracks. Voices crack. But I ain't never heard Beyonce do that. I'm just saying, so to say Alicia Keys is a better singer than Beyonce, that's how I know you don't know anything. Like, respectfully, I'm not trying to be rude to Alicia Keys. No respect to her. Much disrespect to that chiropractor's wife, though, because I know you don't know anything. You don't know anything. Tell me that. And she was like, oh, well, you probably know better than me. I do. On this topic, I do. You're right, because I've heard the songs. I've listened to the music. If I would have said to her, can you tell me the title of one Beyonce record? She would have not been able to tell me one. And I know it. And not to discredit Taylor Swift, but I told you I don't like the comparison of Beyonce and Taylor Swift. And then the lady, the chiropractor wife, gonna prop Taylor Swift off over Beyonce's time. But I just feel like she's just like so much more talented and da-da-da-da-da. And that shit drives me crazy. It's not that Taylor Swift isn't talented in her own right, but don't compare her to Beyonce when you don't know anything. If you only pay attention to Taylor Swift and you don't pay attention to another artist, don't compare them to her. Regardless of who it is, but especially Beyonce. It just bothers me. And that's coming from somebody who likes everybody. So stop doing that. You look ignorant. You look dumb. You look like you don't know what you're talking about. You look like people who know what they're talking about can tell you don't. And the rest of you are just in an echo chamber of localness telling each other, oh, yeah, you're just local. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be aggressive, but it just bothers me to see black women be discredited at every turn. And so she's gonna say Alicia Keys is a better singer, and I'm gonna say, oh yeah, well she was pretty good in the halftime show. Da 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 da. And she was like, well, I didn't really like Usher. How? I'm like, how? So you go from putting down Beyonce, and now you're gonna put down Usher, her only peer, the only person who's been around for 30 years singing and dancing with a live mic, Usher, the only one who's still living. And she gonna put down Usher. Say, I really didn't like his performance. Why did he have to take his shirt off? And I was like, he's just kind of, this is exactly what I said. I was like, he's just kind of been doing that for 20 years. That's just kind of what he's always done, lady. You know, I didn't say lady, but that's what he's always done. Just take his shirt off and these are my confessions. He's always done that shit, bitch. Like, I don't know what to tell you. You think you're the shit. You're not even the fart. You literally are sitting up on her desk chair, farting, typing away on her chiropractor computer, fucking making appointments all day long, talking shit about Beyonce when she needs to go get her own back cracked and listen to some Rocket from the self-titled album and get some love in her life so she can stop hating on people. And Beyonce can help her do that. She got some sexy songs. I'm just like, these bitches piss me off. Stop running your mouth when you don't know stuff. I hate people who talk and you don't know anything. You could just be quiet. I know you have the right to speak, but you don't have to. I feel like I'm a person who knows that I can shut up sometimes. I know you don't know that because you listen to this podcast and you're like, damn, bitch, you talk for 45 minutes. You talk for an hour. You don't shut up. But baby, once this camera goes off, I ain't got nothing else to say. Like, what am I going to say now? I just talk for an hour. Like, I just don't know. People don't understand the value of a pause, of a silence, of a hush, of a please give me a moment to take a breath. Y'all don't understand that. And when you talk to the point where you're talking in circles and it's just with alternative facts and no knowledge, baby, you're just wasting my time. You're wasting your life. You're wasting the flapping of your vocal cords. You flapping them vocal cords, they don't even need to be. You're going to get vocal nodules from talking all that shit when you could just shut the fuck up. Sorry. Just bothers me. And so that's not even the worst of it. She's talking about Beyonce and Taylor Swift and Alicia Keys are better than Beyonce. And then she's going to start talking about the Kardashians. And then, of course, who's she going to bring up but the Kardashians? And that's not that I don't like the Kardashians. But again, I like them for what they are. I also understand that they, as white Armenian women, sure, half Armenian, but white-looking women, they have co-opted so many black culture things and black features and everything else and popularized them just to shed them a couple of years later and change the trends and try to be skinny and heroin chic again and try to be white ladies again. And it just bothers me that they get to shapeshift and do all of that when other people don't even get to be what they are while they get to be whatever. And just, it's weird to me. But I think they're funny. Like, I think they're a good time, but their effect on society's beauty standards, I don't really love specifically. So again, I am able to separate people from what I don't like and what I do like. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like people have lost the ability to have context for issues, and there's so much black or white and there's no gray area with people. And I just feel like there is. But anyway, so she's going to bring up the Kardashians and be like, oh yeah. And she really kind of did. She was being a little rude, saying Kim got famous off her sex tape, which she did. But it's like, if you could, you would. She's so much, if you could make $1 billion and it started with a sex tape 20 years ago, I think I'm okay. Like, it's a sex tape. People will forget. Everybody watches porn anyway. Like, moving on. You know what I mean? But anyway, she's like, oh, she made a sex tape. And by this time, some other people have come in to wait, patients, and there's some black folks. Oh, and by the way, this is after I got my back cracked. There was like a little pause in the conversation, but I didn't mention that. When I was getting my back cracked, her husband, who was the chiropractor, basically slipped in the conversation that he was an anti-vaxxer. And I was getting scared because I haven't got my new COVID vaccine this year yet. And I'm like, he is just telling me he don't have no vaccines, casually. So I'm like, I'm never coming back to this place. So it wasn't just the Beyonce stuff, but it's Beyonce, and then he's an anti-vaxxer. And then she's talking about the Kardashians. I don't even remember why she was really talking about the Kardashians for real, but she went from the Kardashians to talking about Caitlyn. And then her and the black folks that had walked in to wait were basically all saying transphobic shit. Like, I don't even remember what they were saying for real. But they're just like, oh, well, I don't know why you would want to do all of that. Like, I don't know who would ever want to do all of that to their body. And I was like, well, the hundreds of $1 million probably help. You know, it's probably not that hard. They probably get some really good painkillers. Like, these people are so rich. She said I would never do that to my body. You couldn't afford it. You couldn't afford to get the facelift you require. Because if you did, you'd have it. Because I know you need it. So I'm like, oh, I couldn't imagine doing that to my body. Well, baby, okay. Maybe try some retinoid. I don't know what to tell you. Like, you couldn't imagine doing it. So you made the statement and packed it up in one sentence. I couldn't imagine doing that to my body. Okay, then don't imagine it. You can sit over there and need a facelift and need some liposuction and need a titty lift and need that jowl thing and need your crow's feet tightened, and you can need the ponytail facelift that gives you that little lift right there, because she can require all those things that you need. You can not get them, while other people get gender affirming surgery that makes them feel good. I would not be reading her if she wasn't in people's business, but she is. So here I am, standing on hers. I will stand on your business when you were sitting in this office making me listen to you be transphobic, and then I gotta go give you my insurance card so they can pay you for cracking my fucking back. You are joking. I will never be back in that fucking chiropractor again. And I called back to cancel my follow-up appointment because y'all are fucking losers. And I hate that I supported your business. And because I have couth and decorum, and because I know if I would have told these old white people off in any regard, they would have been acting like I'm the hoodlum, I made a podcast episode that they will probably never hear and never see. But I don't like y'all. And you and your anti-vaccine, conservative, transphobic, racist ass values and customers can go to hell, frankly. And I don't mean to be so aggressive on the podcast, but they tried it. And that's why Beyonce is having a #1 country single right now. And that bitch has to listen to it on the radio when she drives home in her broken down Toyota truck. Trying to keep her little chiropractor business together, running back and forth, trying to scrub 2 pennies together, trying to make a coin. This makes me sick. What do you know about music? She's like, you probably know better. She knows I sing. You probably know better than me. Yeah, I do. You can't sing. You never made a song in your life. Don't know anything about music. And you're going to tell me, oh God. This is a little bit of a rant. I really feel like Tana Mojo. I kind of got my Tana Mojo bag, but like she just tried it so bad. That's really all I have to talk about, you guys. I just really wanted to tell you that story. Like, people are so ridiculous. And I'm like, what else happened? They were talking about Alicia Keys and then the shooting and then the money, and then tried to blame the shooting on a black man when it was 2 kids. And then it was Kim Kardashian, and then they were being transphobic to Caitlyn Jenner. And I don't like Caitlyn Jenner as much as the next LGBTQ plus person. She is a conservative who is single-handedly attacking the community that lifted her up in the beginning of her transition. It's ridiculous. But she still doesn't deserve to be made fun of for being trans. She deserves to be made fun of for being a dumbass. Her transness has nothing to do with her dumbassery. She's always been a dummy, obviously. And I don't know, they were just bothering me, and they were like, Caitlyn, so Caitlyn's Chris's daughter? And I was like, no, Caitlyn is Chris's ex-husband. And he was like, ha, ha, ha. And I said, just smile and nod. Like, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. I was like, literally said, just smile and nod. Because it just bothers me how rude all of the people were being. The chiropractor owner, the chiropractor, talking about anti-vaxxer, and the people in the joint, the customers. I'm like, you all suck. You all suck. That's what I'm saying. Southern people are hit and miss, and every one of those people were a miss. So, yeah, I guess that's it. Hopefully the next couple is more positive. I just wanted to like tell a little story. Should I start bringing guests on the podcast? I think maybe a guest could be fun. I said I was going to do it before, and I haven't done it. And I feel like it might be a good time. You guys. So yeah, I'm just like loving. Let me talk about some more music that I've been liking recently. I've been listening to a lot of country, but I think I'm gonna make an episode about that all by itself. I like Dua Lipa's new song Training Season. I don't know if I've mentioned that. I think that's fun. Miley Cyrus has a live album that she put out in 2022 called Attention that I've been listening to for a while, but I kind of didn't listen to it for a minute, and now I'm kind of back on it. It's back in rotation, back in style, back in motion. So I like Attention, that live album, and I'm loving Miley Cyrus overall. I think I mentioned that 2 weeks ago, but yeah, she's just kind of having a renaissance for me musically. She has good music, and she's kind of like everything you need in a pop star. So yeah, I will be back next time, and I sorry, can't speak English. I'm sorry for being so aggressive, but those people really made me mad, and I just feel like I grew up in situations where I had to listen to people talk like that, and I just had to sit there and be my own family members. Was just in situations where I'd be the only black person in the room or the only gay person in the room or both. And I just felt like I couldn't say anything, or I felt like if I said something, everybody would attack me or jump down my throat. And it just felt so oppressive growing up. And so I haven't been in a situation like that for so long. Once I moved to Boston and started being around queer people all the time, like life just changed and my mindset changed because you forget where you come from, kind of, in a good way. And I just forgot that people are like that. And like every person in the room is an asshole and nobody's willing to stand up for anything. And so you're just sitting there like, is nobody hearing this? And you try to interject and they just keep going. And it's just like, oh, it feels like torture. So I'll never be going back to that fuck ass chiropractor, and I'll go get my neck and my back and my pussy and my cracked popped and cracked somewhere else. Shout out Cupcake. You guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Koblizzy. I had a good time having a little Tana Mojo story time. Also, you'll notice my mom got me a chair. Thanks, Mom. And this was this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. You can follow me on Instagram at Koblizzy, TikTok, Twitter at Koblizzy, all of those things. You can go to koblizzy.com. That's my new website. You can go to linktree/Koblizzy. That's my Linktree, obviously. And until next time, go listen to something else. Go listen to my music. Watch another episode of Koblizzy, or watch a YouTube video, or have fun, or read a book. Take a walk. Touch some grass. I don't know. Bye.